But since I'm Catholic and I'm a comedian, I was asked to open for the Pope when he visited America. And before you're impressed, it didn't go well. Like, I opened for the Pope, but the Pope wasn't sitting there like, ha, 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 ha. I don't know how the Pope laughs. Hopefully not like Jabba the Hutt. But I did 15 minutes of stand-up, and then the Pope-mobile drove into this outdoor amphitheater space. I opened for an automobile. And that's not even the first time I've opened for a car. I had to cut my honeymoon short so that I could perform at the Iowa State Fair, where I opened for Kyle Busch's NASCAR. Kyle Busch wasn't there, just his car. I did 15 minutes of stand-up, and then some stagehands pushed his number 18 on the stage, and audience members came up and got pictures with the car. The car did better. But I did open for the Pope-mobile in Philadelphia. Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, and if you've been there, you know they mean that sarcastically. I love Philly, but saying Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love is a little bit like saying Syria, a place for peace. But I love Philly. I love the whole Northeast. I'm from the Midwest, but I choose to live in the Northeast because I love the energy and I love the fact that everyone in the Northeast is angry for absolutely no reason at all. They're furious. From Philadelphia to Boston, pissed off. Right? That whole Acela line, I call it the corridor of hate. But that is why we are the United States. Think of those initial 13 colonies. Like, in Virginia, those guys, like Jefferson and Madison, those guys were like the philosophers. They're like, we're born with these inalienable rights, we should have representation. But it was the people in the Northeast, in Boston, that were like, screw it, dump all the tea in the habit. Those English are dicks, they don't say that before a hospital. Don't you wish you were there when the Bostonians explained to the Virginians, yeah, we listened to all that stuff you said, so we started a war with England. The greatest superpower on the planet. The Virginians were like, what? We were talking hypothetically. Even Patrick Henry was like, when I said give me liberty or give me death, I didn't mean actual death. I was talking like death by chocolate death. But so I was in Philadelphia for the event at the sound check, and they had constructed this huge amphitheater next to the Ben Franklin Parkway, which is a highway, and the amphitheater was empty. And I was up there doing the sound check, and I looked on the highway, and it was already filled with 1 million people. And I looked at those people, and I thought, wow, 1 million people that don't want to see me do stand-up comedy. Because they were all there to see the Pope, and not one of those 1 million people was thinking, I hope the Pope has a comedian open for him. But I shouldn't have been surprised. In the weeks leading up to the event, there were all these interviews. They're like, you're opening for the Pope. There's gonna be millions of people there. Are you nervous? Are you gonna prepare? And I'm like, I'm definitely nervous. I'm definitely gonna prepare. Anyway, I didn't prepare. So I was on stage at the sound check looking at those 1 million people, and I thought, I gotta come up with some Philadelphia jokes. But what do I know about Philadelphia? I know cheesesteaks, Liberty Bell, and I just watched this ESPN 30 for 30 documentary about Eagles fans in 1968 throwing snowballs at someone dressed like Santa Claus. That's all I knew. So I went off and I tried to think of some Philadelphia jokes. Before you knew it, the event started and I was introduced and I walked out and the amphitheater was still empty. Because the Pope wasn't there and it was a Catholic event, so everyone was at the bar. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm just gonna do my show for no one. So I go, it's good to be here in Philadelphia. And I heard this roar behind me. And it was all the people on the highway. And I was like, all right, I'll play to them. I was like, Philadelphia loves the Pope. And I was like, not that I was worried, but you guys weren't that nice to Santa. Nothing. Silence. And then I heard something that sounded like booing, because it was booing. It wasn't everyone, it was like 10%, so 100,000 people. Booing my Santa joke before they saw their religious leader who was gonna talk to them about mercy. So I did what anyone would do when they're being booed. I acted like I wasn't being booed. I did some jokes about being lazy and food, and I kind of got the crowd back. And I got off stage, disaster averted, and I pulled out my phone and I started checking Twitter, and I saw the most angry, hateful tweets I've ever seen. How dare you bring up the Santa incident? Never come back to Philly. I wish I could punch you. Bring up the Santa incident in Philly is like bring up the Holocaust in Germany. That was an actual tweet. Of course, the difference being that the Holocaust happened and Santa has never existed. At that moment, there was a tap on my shoulder, and it was one of the organizers, and they're like, do you want to meet the Pope? And I was like, I'm good. I was like, yeah, of course, I'd love to meet the Pope. So I was put in this room with some of the other performers, and we were lined up, and the Pope came in, and he started greeting people, and I noticed people that the Pope was meeting, they were saying something to the Pope, and I didn't know what I was going to say to the Pope. And before you knew it, the Pope was right in front of me, and I just said, don't bring up the Santa incident. And the Pope, he didn't say anything. He just gave me a look of like, dude, I would never do that. This is Philadelphia. They'd crucify me.